Chapter 8. Chapter Summary. No one is having a good time. Chapter Notes. This gets mildly spicy, so consider this your mild spice warning. By spice, I mean sex. And I'm gonna come in here as the reader and tell you I've proofread this, and it does not get, explicit. It's just kind of, implied. So if that makes you uncomfortable, I will tell you where, once I get through the point of recording it, I will tell you where in that point you can skip from what timestamp to what timestamp, just to kind of not have to listen to that if you're uncomfortable with that. And I also would like to apologize that there's really, really loud thunder outside of my room, so if you hear that in the background, which I just listened back and I heard it and the little intro part that I just did, so my sincerest apologies for how loud the thunder actually is. Alright, so if you skip from 34 minutes 54 seconds to 38 minutes and 3 seconds, you should be good to skip all of the spice scene. James is allowed to go back to the dorm after 2 days, but not without some conditions. You are to stay into bed until I say so. Do you understand? Pomfrey fixes him with a sharp look. Perfectly. James, there's warning in her tone. Listen, I am famously very good at doing what I'm told. Her eyes narrow. I'm friends with the portraits. Don't worry, Poppy. This is a judgment-free zone. Though you may want to try getting out a bit more. If you move, she presses on, though James can see her fighting a smile, I will know. So if you ever want to get on a broomstick again, I suggest you listen to me. Which James thinks is entirely unfair and certainly an abuse of power, but since neither McGonagall nor Dumbledore agree with him, he finds himself confined to his bedroom, which is made infinitely worse when Remus starts bringing him his coursework. But I'm injured, he whines. I'm supposed to be resting. Isn't that what you all keep saying? How am I supposed to rest and write an essay on the 7 uses of unicorn hair? Those two activities are completely incompatible. What, is Slughorn trying to kill me? James, Remus sighs, collapsing onto his bed. I will literally pay you to shut up. I'm just saying, James. He huffs, glaring at Remus and then glaring at his coursework. I can't believe Pomfrey won't let me leave this fucking room, but she's still going to make me... His rant is cut short by the pillow that collides with his face. Which, if Remus thinks is going to shut him up, he has another thing coming, because now James has a whole new rant about respecting the delicacy of his newly mended head. Except, when he looks over, Remus is curled onto his side, burying his face in his blankets. Moony? You okay over there? There's a long pause before Remus speaks, words muffled by the bedding. Just having a bad day. James's eyes automatically go to the window, even though he knows the full moon is still 2 weeks off. You want to talk about it? James asks. Remus makes a noise that might be some kind of sad, pathetic laugh, but it's hard to tell from his current position. No, I just want to wallow, if that's okay. Sure, Moons. James nods, even though he knows Remus can't see him. Wherever you want. Remus doesn't emerge until it's time for him to go down to the Great Hall for supper. James, of course, doesn't get to go to the Great Hall for his meals, but instead has to have them brought to him via house elf. Remus? He calls to his friend as he's halfway out the door. James fidgets with the words in his mouth. If you want to talk at some point, any point, I'm here. Remus, James realizes for the first time, looks exhausted. Sure, Prongs, thanks. He gives James a weak smile before disappearing down the stairs. That's the first time that James notices something is wrong. The second time is when Sirius is doing his homework. It's not that Sirius doesn't do his work. He does. Just usually he does it in a rush, moments before it's due. James once watched him pen out a 4-page paper on the mating habits of a hodag. In 15 minutes, it took them to walk to class. He's good enough that he passes, even with his illegible handwriting. Sirius' greatest strength has always been his ability to improvise. So it's strange to watch him sit on the floor of their bedroom, books open in front of him, silently scribbling notes in a timely fashion. Everything all right? James asks when he can't take the silence anymore. What? Sirius doesn't look up from the papers in front of him. You seem a little tense. He can see Sirius's eyes still, no longer scanning across the pages of text. Nah, I'm good, he says eventually. James watches him, expression stern, shoulders inching up his neck as he starts writing again. Okay, mate, he says eventually, forcing himself to focus on his own work. I'm just wondering if you've noticed anything, James asks impatiently as he watches Peter scramble around the room, desperately trying to find his wand. He misplaces it at least once a day. Like what? Peter grunts as he gets on his hands and knees and starts rooting around under his bed. I don't know, James huffs. Just, are they fighting? I feel like maybe they're fighting. More than usual? Peter wipes the sweat off his forehead as he stands back up, still wandless. I swear I just had it, he mutters to himself. James rolls his eyes, picking up his own wand. Accio Peter's wand, he mutters. There's the sound of rattling and then persistent banging as both boys turn towards the closed bathroom door. I I swear I checked there. Peter grumbles to himself as he walks over and opens the door, grabbing the wand out of the air on his way to James. What do you mean, more than usual? Peter looks back at him. What? James' patience these days is at an all-time low. It's the captivity. It's no good for him. So it takes an incredible amount of effort to not snap at Peter. He knows that wouldn't end well. When he gets snippy with Remus or Sirius, they give it right back, but Peter just shuts down. Remus and Sirius, I asked you if they were fighting and you asked more than usual. What does that mean? He gestures impatiently. Peter shrugs. I don't know. They fight. We all fight. What? James demands, feeling slightly offended for some reason. We don't fight. Peter looks at him curiously for a minute before shaking his head. Sometimes I feel like we're in completely different friend groups. What is that supposed to... Look, I gotta go. If I'm late for Transfiguration again, McGonagall is gonna turn me into a chicken. Peter shivers at the thought, shoving his wand in his back pocket and grabbing the books off his bed. But wait, Pete! Damn it! James sighs, collapsing back onto his bed as the door closes behind his friend. We don't fight, he grumbles to himself. James is pacing in front of the window when Marlene walks in, both of them stopping dead in their tracks, staring. Brought these for you? She breaks the silence, holding up a stack of parchment that can only be more homework. James groans. How did you even get up here? He grabs the work from her sulkily and chucks it onto his bed with the half a dozen other assignments he's currently ignoring. Marlene arches her brow. I walked? Isn't there like an enchantment or something? James waves his hand about. You know, keeping us out of each other's dorms. Only on the girls, protecting our virtue or something. Well, what about my virtue? James demands indignantly, making Marlene laugh. Guess the founders figured it was a lost cause. Presumptuous bastards. Marlene smirks. I can't believe you didn't know this. Aren't you guys supposed to know all the castle's secrets? Isn't that, like, your whole thing? She gestures around the room. Our thing? James raises his eyebrow. I didn't realize we had a thing. Also, how would we know this? You could read Hogwarts a history? James looks at her flatly. I repeat, how would we know this? She snorts. Okay, fair point. I mean, you're telling me you've never tried to sneak a girl up? She cuts herself off, eyes going wide. Oh, shit, never mind, that was... James rolls his eyes, waving off her words and leaning against the wall next to the window. Believe it or not, the idea of hooking up with a girl while my three mates listen in has never sounded appealing to me. Marlene blinks at him a few times before pulling herself back together. You're telling me Sirius Black has never brought a girl back to his room? We're broom cupboard men, us. He shoots her a grin. Classy. James nods, looking out the window, trying to work through the nagging feeling now taking up space in his gut. He stops, shooting her a sidelong look, pulse suddenly hammering against his ribs. It's only him, really. There's a pause. James's eyes follow the tiny students rushing towards the greenhouse below them to distract himself from the buzzing in his ears. Eventually, Marlene moves forward and leans on the wall across from him. Okay, she says softly. He looks over at her. Yeah? Yeah, James, of course. He exhales a breath he didn't know he was holding, eyes going back to the window. They still don't know, I gather? She asks, gesturing to the room behind them. He doesn't want anyone to know. And what do you want? James lets out a dry laugh, passing a hand over his face. I have no idea, honestly. Even if I could, I don't know that I... He trails off, eyes going unconsciously over his shoulder to Sirius's bed. Well, Marlene goes on carefully, pulling his attention back to her. I'm pretty sure Remus would be okay with it. James can feel the confusion on his face. Why? She looks up at him expectantly, but when she continues to get nothing in return, she sighs, laughing a little. Honestly, you lot are a mess, aren't you? Oi, we do all right. Uh-huh. I don't appreciate the judgmental tone, McKinnon. She laughs, blonde hair falling in her eyes. I'm just saying, I think if you told them, she shrugs, it'd be all right. James's chest squeezes. Remus, maybe. Pete, honestly, I couldn't tell you. But Sirius? James swallows. Sirius will never forgive me for this. And fuck Mar. He runs a hand through his hair. I don't know if I can bear that. Him hating me. She reaches out, squeezing his arm. James, you should have seen him after you got hit. Something in her voice makes him look up. I knew you two were close, but he was wrecked, James. I'm pretty sure if me and Alice hadn't held him back, he would have killed Bones. I'd have done the same if it was him, James says, because it's true. Marlene nods. I don't think he could ever hate you. But he's not just a boy. James fights the way saying that out loud makes a part of him squirm, want to shy away from it. He isn't ashamed. He won't be. It's his brother. Marlene grimaces. Yeah, I have to admit that part is throwing me off a bit too. He's not an asshole? James snorts, restlessly fidgeting against the wall, crossing and uncrossing his arms. You know, until a week ago, one of your best mates thought I was an asshole. Marlene rolls her eyes. Yeah, it's not the same. He looks over at her. Isn't it? And suddenly, she's too serious for James's liking. There are different levels of bad, James. You've been obnoxious, sure. You've lacked self-awareness, but you've never been cruel. Regulus isn't cruel. There's no room for questioning in his voice, but Marlene looks back at him, unconvinced, pitying even. Listen, I've had this conversation too many times with Lily about Snape. I don't want to do it again. I'm just saying, she sighs, sounding weary, I'm saying that just because someone can be good sometimes to some people doesn't mean they're a good person. James feels like someone just slapped him. Reg is not Snape. He's nothing like Snape. The very idea makes bile crawl up the back of his throat. He could see Marlene chewing on the inside of her cheek. Maybe. I don't really know him. But do you think Snape can't be redeemable when he wants to be? That Lily would have held on to him for so long if he couldn't sometimes be a decent human being? Marlene. James puts as much emphasis on her name as he can. I'm telling you, they're different. They are. Even as he says it, he can see Regulus sitting with Rosier and Crouch, cold eyes and sharp mouth. Can see him sneering at the first years in the corridor. Can see Sirius alone on his doorstep. You're really into him, huh? Marlene's words pull him out of his thoughts. He can't look at her, feeling sick for the first time since leaving the infirmary. When he doesn't get an answer, he hears Marlene exhale, shifting a little against the wall. Stupid question, that. Since when is anything ever casual with you? James lets out a weak laugh, even though it feels like his chest has started to cave in on itself. Regulus isn't Snape. He repeats again. He needs her to know, to understand. I can see how maybe it looks that way from the outside, but it isn't the same. It can't be, whispers the voice in his head. It can't be, because I'm absolutely mad for him, this boy. He makes it feel like the sun rises in my chest. Marlene nods. Okay, I believe you. You'd know better than me. And then a small smile pulls at her mouth. It means something, that he has you. Maybe it'll make a difference, like with Sirius. I didn't. His voice is scratchy and he coughs, trying to get his words back. I didn't do anything for Sirius. She shakes her head, bemused expression on her face. Yeah, James. Yeah, you did. You gave him a way out. James thinks about Regulus, back on the first night in the tower. I'm not my brother, he'd said. You can't save me. James feels those words more now than he did the first time. They bruise. Due to a mandatory bed rest, and also his tendency to get dizzy when he's on his feet for too long, James hasn't seen Regulus since the infirmary, which, if he's being honest, is having more of an effect on him than he would have thought. Besides the fact that he's found himself watching Regulus' name on the map almost constantly, which he can freely admit to himself is both creepy and pathetic. He's been dreaming about him. Sometimes they're nightmares, in the woods, in the dark, but sometimes there's something else, something with hands and mouths, and a heat that whips through James like nothing he's ever felt before. He wakes up hot and panting and wanting. These days, he feels like that's all he does, want. He hasn't forgotten his conversation with Sirius in the infirmary, hasn't forgotten what Sirius heard. These days, he casts a quietist charm over his bed before he goes to sleep. There's a new fidgety energy that sits under his skin. He can't sit still. He paces. He plays with his snitch. He throws crumpled balls of paper across the room. He thinks and thinks and thinks. He thinks so much he's certain he's going mad. Mostly, he thinks about gray eyes and thick dark hair and a mouth that says, I bite. And he wants. It's a few days after his talk with Marlene that Remus walks into their room to find James and Sirius sitting in the window and then promptly walks back out. At which point, James decides that he can't ignore the situation anymore. Okay, what did you do to Mooney? He demands. Sirius didn't look up when the door opened or closed, eyes trained on the overcast skies, sporadic raindrops splattering the glass. You're not making any sense, Prongs. Think maybe that bludger messed you up a bit. His voice is lacking its normal teasing edge, words falling flat. James watches him for a minute, the picture of melancholy before reaching over and punching him hard in the arm. Ow, what the hell? Sirius clutches his arm and kicks James in retaliation. Hey, I'm injured! Don't start fights you can't finish, Potter, he says, kicking him once more for good measure. What's going on with you and Remus? James kicks back. Nothing. Bullshit. Sirius sighs, throwing his hands in the air. I don't know. He's pissed at me. He's always pissed. I don't know what his problem is. James narrows his eyes. Wow, you're a really shit liar, you know that? Sirius glares, getting up dramatically and moving to his bed, crossing his arms over his chest as he sits against the headboard. Are you sulking now? James demands. Maybe. Is that a problem for you? Yes. I tried to leave it alone. Sirius lets out a disbelieving scoff that James chooses to ignore. But it's been days now, and the two of you are both in crap moods and won't even be in the same room as each other. So since you're clearly incapable of pulling your head out of your ass, you're going to tell me what happened so I can fix it. You can't fix everything, James. Sirius snaps back, harsher than James is expecting. Watch me. When Sirius does nothing but sit there glaring, James gets up and moves to his bedside, picking up Peter's pillow as he goes. Sirius's eyes widen. Don't you fucking dare, James. Then tell me what's happened. Put that down or I swear I will crucio your ass. Ha, you wish. James. Sirius scrambles to the other side of his bed as James swings for his head. You wanker, Sirius grumbles, rolling onto the floor. He grabs hold of his own pillow and hurls it at James. I wouldn't have to be if you wouldn't stop lying to me. James lunges across the bed at the same time that Sirius makes a run for the other side, so they end up chasing one another in a circle, with James ending up on Sirius's side and Sirius on James's. Bit rich coming from you, Sirius says, snatching the pillow off of Remus's bed and launching it across the room. James ducks. What? He says when he comes back up. Where do you go every night, James? Sirius demands, causing a cold chill to run along James's spine. Huh? You take the map so there's no way to check. You disappear for bloody hours. What the hell are you doing? James stands there, pillow forgotten in his hand. Oh, come on, Sirius says, tone verging on mean. Did you really think we wouldn't notice? James's body has gone so stiff that he feels like he might crack open, a horrible foreboding feeling washing over him. You didn't say... Mooney thought we should leave it alone, that you'd come to us if you needed to. He's sneering, but James thinks he can just make out the hurt on the ends of his words. He thinks about how he felt, finding out about Sirius's father from Regulus. But it's been weeks now, Sirius goes on. So what is it, James? What are you hiding from us? James swallows. Nothing. Ha! The noise is angry when it forces his way out of his mouth. Who's the fucking liar now? Shit, is all James can think. I asked you first, he says pathetically. A look passes over Sirius's face that he's not sure he's ever seen before, or if he has, it's never been directed at him. When did you stop trusting me? Sirius says finally, and the room feels too quiet and too hot, and James didn't know how they got here, but he hates it. That's not fair. That's not what's happening here. He struggles with his words. That's why you lie, James. You lie because you don't trust someone with the truth. It's a fight for him not to flinch, those words carving their way through his skin. Because that's the truth, isn't it? When all is said and done, he doesn't trust Sirius with this. Is that why you lie to me? He asks instead of answering. Sirius makes a dismissive noise. I don't trust anyone. It's not the same. Isn't it? But Sirius shakes his head. No, because you trust everyone. You always have. So when did you stop trusting me? James doesn't have an answer for that. Or maybe he just doesn't want to. I trust you, Sirius, he says finally. I trust you with everything. The else that they both know exists on the end of the sentence hangs between them. I trust you with everything else. But not this? Sirius asks, though it was never said. James fights everything that swells up inside of him at the way those words sound in Sirius's mouth. There's no this. I can't sleep. I wander around the castle. He shrugs. That's it. Sirius looks at him meaningfully before an empty laugh bubbles out of him. Right, well... He runs a hand through his hair. You go for late night walks. Me and Mooney are completely fine. That's how we're playing this? James shrugs helplessly. Great. Excellent. Glad we had this talk. Feel loads better now. Cheers. Sirius throws open the door with so much force that it bangs into the wall and James flinches when it closes behind him. Pomfrey officially takes him off a bed rest. No Quidditch, she says sharply. Not for another 2 weeks at least. James grumbles unhappily, but doesn't bother trying to fight her. Sirius and Remus start warming up to each other again, or at least they can be in the same room now, which James supposes is an improvement. They don't really talk, though. In fact, none of them really talk. There's no attempt by him or Sirius to bring up the fight they had. They just move on. That's how they've always dealt with things, or not dealt with things, depending on your perspective. It feels different this time, though, like there's something heavy sitting on James's chest every time he thinks about it. I'm just saying, you can just say all you want, and you're still wrong. James says confidently. Sirius rolls his eyes. The queen sleeps are lighter, more aerodynamic. Aerodynamic? James snorts. Please, I'd take the old Nimbus model over the newest clean sleep any day. Well, that's because you've been completely brainwashed. James laughs. Oh, have I? Mindless brand loyalty. James knocks their shoulders together. Yeah, whatever you say. It's late in the day. The sun is warm, but getting low in the sky. James swears it's dark by supper these days. Hey, do you have the notes from Muggle studies? Sirius asks. You know I don't. I'm just going to nick them off of Mooney. Sirius' expression tightens, but he nods his head. Right, good plan. They're walking back from potions. Slughorn kept them late in an attempt to once again woo them into joining his dinner parties. They, of course, refused, but it means the corridors are mostly empty. Everyone else already done with classes for the day. Merlin, I can't believe you just called the clean sweeps aerodynamic. James laughs to himself. Oh, whatever, you snob. You just like the Nimbus line because it's posher. I hope you appreciate the irony of you calling anyone posher, Mr. I took ballet until I was 9. Sirius sends him a flat stare. It was ballroom, actually. Oh well, James can't help but snicker. In that case, that's well rough. Sirius tries to trip him, but only partially succeeds, which mostly ends up with the pair of them jostling down the hallway. Like you're any different, Sirius says when they eventually push away from each other, both grinning. You know, most people don't have a whole bloody Quidditch pitch in their back garden, right? It's not a full Quidditch pitch, it's only... They round the corner and James feels his words suck themselves back down his throat as he comes face to face with a pair of wide gray eyes. Of course, the shock on Regulus's face only lasts for about a second before he slides his mask out of casual dislike into place, gaze quickly shifting from James to Sirius. Sirius, he says coldly. Regulus. James says nothing. He figures that's probably what's expected of him, which is good, because his pulse has rammed itself so far up his throat that he's not sure he could manage speaking right now. Well, Sirius says after several more seconds of tense silence, as fun as this is, we've got to go. So, Sirius looks at James, who nods as they start walking again, Sirius making a bit of a show of walking around Regulus, who is still standing there. All in all, James thinks it's not so bad. A little awkward, but it could have been. He asks about you, you know? Sirius freezes. James looks over at him and suddenly begs him to just go away, but Sirius's eyes have gone dark, and James knows, even before his friend starts to turn around, that there's no getting out of this now. Fuck. That's interesting. Sirius's voice is so falsely casual it makes James cringe. Since he never seemed to care much about me when I was around. Their father, James thinks, looking between the two brothers. They're talking about their father. Nobody does the right thing all the time, Sirius. People make mistakes. And that makes Sirius laugh, cold and sharp. Mistakes? Is that what they're telling you they're making? Come on, little brother, you're smarter than that. Sirius leers, stepping closer. James follows behind in case he has to stop them from killing each other. Both of them burn cold. When they get angry, they don't yell or bluster. They turn their smiles into knives and carve you into pieces. It's fucking terrifying to watch. In order for something to be a mistake, you have to feel guilty about it, Sirius goes on. Him and Reg have eyes only for each other. You know that being sick doesn't make you a good person. Regulus's eyes narrow. There are no good people, he says flatly. They're just people. That's it. This isn't a fairy tale. Is that how you do it? How you live with yourself? Sirius asks darkly, now far too close for James's comfort. Regulus doesn't respond, hands curled into fists at his side, but at least he's not reaching for his wand. You're right, Reg, Sirius goes on, neither of them looking away, not for a second. Nobody can do the right thing all the time. But the problem with you lot, his eyes trail over his brother in mild disgust, is you don't even try. There's a pause before Regulus lets out a dry laugh. What exactly makes you think you're any different? What great injustice are you writing, Sirius? All you've done is run away, like a coward. He spits the last word out of his mouth, and now James does step forward, hand taking hold of Sirius's arm to keep him from lunging. You think you're some kind of hero? You think you accomplished something the night you left? Because to me, it looks like you're doing what you've always done, which is look out for your fucking self. Sirius jolts forwards, James yanking him back as Regulus pulls out his wand. Hey, enough! James shouts, pinning both of Sirius's arms behind his back to keep him from reaching for his own wand. Regulus isn't looking at James, eyes intent on his brother. I said enough! Sirius is struggling against his grip, trying to throw his elbow back into James's stomach so he can get himself free. James grunts as Sirius lands a well-aimed kick to his shin, feeling his grip start to slip. Fuck, Regulus! You really want to start calling me a coward, Reg? Sirius asks. You let her use you as a fucking rug if you thought it would make her love you. It's pathetic. James sees it, just barely, the switch in Regulus's grip, the look in his eyes. He throws them against the wall just as the curse shoots silently out of Regulus's wand. You're a fucking psycho! Sirius is yelling, James barely keeping a grip as he holds him against the wall. Regulus, put the fucking wand down! Regulus looks at James for the first time, and James feels the air empty out of his lungs. He doesn't know that face. He doesn't know those eyes. They certainly aren't the same ones that snuck into his bedside in the infirmary and held him like it meant something. It takes a few more seconds before Regulus puts his wand back in his pocket, eyes returning to his still struggling brother. You're a disgrace, he says coldly, picking up the books he dropped in a scuffle and turning his back on them. Oh, fuck you, Reg! Sirius shouts after him as he turns the corner. James's mouth feels dry. Prongs, Jesus, let go of me, you prick! Shit, sorry. Sirius stumbles forward out of his grasp, both of them breathing heavily. Sirius glares at the place where his brother disappeared, James doing his best to get the look on Regulus's face out of his mind. Finally, Sirius rounds on him. What the hell was that? He demands. What? James feels off balance, like he can't quite get a grip on the world around him. Sirius gestures emphatically at the spot where Regulus had been standing. Since when do you protect him? I didn't protect him, James says automatically, which he thinks might actually be true, but doesn't make him feel any better. You held me back. He had his fucking wand out. If you took a swing, he was gonna hex your bloody arms off. I would have drawn mine first if you hadn't already been pulling me away. James lets out an exasperated sigh, running a hand through his hair. So what, Sirius? I was supposed to just stand back and watch you kill each other? No, He fumes. You were supposed to fucking help me. You were supposed to have my back. 2 against 1's not exactly fair. Nothing is fair. What about any of this seems fair to you? Well, now you just sound like him. That catches Sirius off guard. Catches James off guard, too, if he's being honest. Sirius physically steps back, and James feels his stomach lurch. He expects more shouting, but there isn't. After a few minutes, Sirius brings his hand up to his face. The hallway feels too big all of a sudden, too quiet. He just makes me so fucking angry sometimes, Sirius says eventually. I hate that he's like that he defends them, that he plays their games. And I used to feel like I knew that he didn't really think it was okay, any of the stuff they say, or... Sirius lets out a breath, looking down at the floor for a moment. But fuck, I don't know anymore. Maybe he does. Because he won't fight it. He won't stand up for himself. Won't stand up for anything. It drives me nuts. James feels suddenly exhausted, head swimming in a way he decides to blame on the bludger instead of Reg. He's not sure what to say, what to do. Listen, don't bite my head off for this, yeah? James starts, which gets a snort out of Sirius. Strong start. James grimaces. Have you tried talking to him? I mean, actually talking to him. Not just shouting insults at each other or whatever that was. He waves vaguely at the empty hallway around them. Talking to him outside of that house? Sirius stiffens at the mention of Grimold Place. You can't talk to him, Sirius says simply. He's a wall. It's all family and duty. When I try and ask him what he actually thinks, he just shrugs me off. Like it's not important. Sirius laughs dryly, digging the heels of his palms into his eyes. Like thinking isn't important. Which is what they would want, you know. Fucking mindless zombies who'll do whatever they say. I could never do that. Could never hollow myself out the way he could. It takes a lot of work for James to hold himself still, to keep from flinching. He thinks of Regulus up in the tower, talking about having to hide parts of himself away, how it made things easier, and he wonders how much of himself he puts in boxes. Maybe if I knew he had somewhere he could go. Sirius's eyes snap up and James tries to look casual. My mom, this summer, she said something. Well, she said she was going to try and get him out of there. Regulus? Sirius demands, surprised. You know her. Fighting to keep his voice level. She's got to save everyone. It's a moment before Sirius nods. Yeah, you're like her that way. James doesn't know why that aches. Bloody annoying, I expect. He offers Sirius a weak smile that his friend returns. Yeah, it is. But, saved me, so can't really complain. James rolls his eyes. Please, he says around the lump in his throat. You're Sirius Black. You saved yourself. Oh, fuck off, James. Stop trying to make me cry in the middle of a bloody corridor. He laughs as he punches James in the arm. Told you, Black. You're going soft. Yeah, like you aren't a bleeding fucking heart. Merlin, James says as they start walking away, slowly in the direction of the common room. We're turning into Hufflepuffs. Sirius gives him a look of outrage. Bite your tongue. This time, James laughs big. He doesn't know whether to go to the tower or not, after what happened, after finding out that the others know. He lays in his bed, staring up at the canopy, tapping his fingers anxiously on his stomach. But eventually, he gets up. Of course he does, taking the map and looking nervously at Sirius's bed before slipping out the door. He's more cautious this time, constantly checking his surroundings, not for Filch, but for his friends. It's only a matter of time, really. Sirius won't be able to let this go forever. Honestly, he's kind of impressed Sirius hasn't already tried to follow him. If it'd been the other way around, James is pretty sure he'd have done it the second night. He expects he has Moony to thank for Sirius's restraint. When he finally makes it outside, Regulus is waiting for him, sitting facing the door, no telescope, hands clasped between his knees. He doesn't look remorseful. He just looks determined. His eyes meet James's, and for a moment, they just stand there, facing one another, and James can't help but feel like they've been here before. I don't get his attention often, Regulus says finally, breaking the silence. His words sound tense. James arches his brow. And that's what you decide to do with it? Regulus lets out a breath, face unreadable. It's complicated. He was walking away. You could have just... Yeah, but you see, that's what he always does. Regulus says coldly. Walks away. Don't. James warns. Really don't, Reg, because I'm not going to just stand here and listen to you act like he didn't have every right to walk out of that fucking house. James feels himself shake with the weight of his anger. Regulus's eyes narrow. Right, of course. You're on his side. I don't know how to be on your side. James is still standing so far away, and part of him hates that, because it's been a week of dreaming and wanting, and he's tired of fighting. He feels like all he's been doing lately is fighting with the people he cares about. It's exhausting. I don't even know what your side is. There's a lot of words in Regulus's stare that he wishes the other boy would say out loud. But in the end, all James gets is... No. There's a pause as Regulus drops his head, the rest of his body remaining carefully held, ready to pounce, to run. No, I'm not sure I do either. Reg? When he doesn't speak again, James finally makes himself step forward, crouching in front of Regulus, hands on his calves. He waits for the other boy to look up, but instead, after several moments of tense silence, Regulus leans forward, resting his forehead against James's. We shouldn't have to do this. Regulus's voice is quiet. I'm usually better at not. He cuts himself off, letting out a heavy exhale, but he doesn't pull away. James can't see his face, but he can feel the heat, the weight of him. It's settling. Better at what? James asks, matching his volume. Not taking stupid risks. Can't say I relate. Regulus snorts. No, I'm sure you can't. They stay like that for a while, pressed together, James listening as Regulus takes deep, even breaths, like he's trying to calm himself down. Reg, James says eventually, his hands running soothingly up and down the back of Regulus's legs. Is the only response he gets. Come home with me. Regulus pulls back so fast James nearly falls into his lap. What? James steadies himself. Don't go back there. Don't go back to them. James can't read the expression on Regulus's face. Shock, fear, anger, maybe all three. I can't. You can. James insists, feeling desperate. You can. My mom, she wanted to come get you last summer, after Sirius showed up. I know. And something in his tone makes James's breath catch. You know? He repeats, looking at him quizzically. How? My father might not work at the ministry anymore, but he still has friends. When Dumbledore started asking around, it got back to them. And your parents told you? Regulus imperfectly suppresses a grimace. In a manner of speaking. James doesn't like the way that sounds at all. Did they threaten you? He's met with a blank stare, and James starts to feel the return of the shaking anger in his bones. They did more than threaten you. He all but growls. Regulus sighs. Leave it, James. They just want to make sure that I didn't know anything about it, that I wasn't involved, and I wasn't, so... Reg, James squeezes his legs, looking up imploringly at the younger boy. Come home with me. But Regulus only shakes his head. I can't. I'm not leaving my father. James opens his mouth to try again, but Regulus pushes away from him before he can, getting to his feet. I told you not to try and save me, James. God, you and your brother are so melodramatic. James stands up now, too, leveling Regulus with a look. You're not a lost cause, Regulus. You're not. That seems to take the younger boy by surprise, and James watches him fight with himself, watches him chew up the words as they try to escape his mouth. Not everyone can be a hero, he says eventually. There aren't any heroes, remember? You said that. No heroes, no villains, just people. They stare at one another, and James can see his jaw clenching, muscles shifting beneath his skin. It's harder to believe that standing next to you, Regulus says eventually, causing James to let out a frustrated noise. I'm not a hero, Reg. But the younger boy only smiles, quiet and sad. See, I think you might be, though. Sometimes, James, you shine so fucking bright, I feel like I'm gonna burn up. Those words sink somewhere deep inside him, and he wants, and wants, and wants. My whole life, everything has always been so cold, and then you started focusing it on me, and I could feel it. Feel you watching me, feel you in my head, in my sleep. You take up so much space, you make everything so full, and it's intoxicating. Just being around you, having all that power focused on me? Regulus sounds breathless. I mean, what I said, James, on the Quidditch pitch, I don't want to break you, but I will if you let me. I will. Because I'm not serious. There's something in me and it's rotten, and James steps forward, closing the space between them, but not touching, not yet, just holding his hand out, a question. After a moment of hesitating, Regulus nods, and James brings his hands up to his face, holding it carefully, tilting his chin so that those gray eyes meet his. I don't know who or what made you give up on yourself, Regulus, but I need you to stop. James, you're worth saving. Regulus makes a strangled noise, and James bends down and kisses it out of his mouth, soft and gentle, not pushing but taking, whatever it is that Regulus is willing to give him. He feels the other boy's hands curl up in his shirt. He doesn't remember backing them up, but suddenly James is pressing Regulus again into the castle wall, pulling another noise out of him that vibrates in his chest. They push together, every inch of them touching, Regulus bleeding into him. Cold hands slip up under James's shirt, running up his back, his chest, electric currents rushing through him. The sun, he gasps when they break apart, still pressed together, foreheads resting against one another. What? That's what I thought. James pushes for the words out on his next exhale, pulling back just enough to see Regulus's eyes. The first time you kissed me, I thought, he touches like the sun, James thus helplessly. You think I'm bright, Reg? You, when you let yourself shine so fucking bright. A pained look crosses Regulus's face, and James is about to ask why when Regulus leans forward again, kissing harder. His teeth bite at James's lower lip before pushing deeper, taking his mouth. This kiss is all-encompassing. He feels Regulus and tastes him and smells him. He wants and wants and wants. Hands start to play at the waistband of his pants. Reg, he hums into his mouth, which is not at all articulating the things he's trying to say, but it's hard to concentrate. Regulus's mouth finds its way along his jaw, down his neck, and the fire that sparks in the pit of James's stomach is almost unbearable. His hands fall against the wall on either side of Regulus's head, racking him in, keeping James standing as Regulus's hands keep moving. Part of James's brain, the loud part, screams, "Yes, yes this, please, more." But the other part, the quieter part, says, "Careful, be careful with him." Which seems ridiculous, since Regulus is 100% the one in control, and yet, maybe we should... His voice cuts out as Regulus presses his hand against him, and all James sees is white, dropping his head into the crook of Regulus's neck. "Fuck," he hisses, starting a slow rhythm that James is almost positive is going to take him apart stitch by stitch. That's the idea. But something isn't quite right. His voice too tight. Regulus presses down with his thumb, and James can't keep at the groan that tears out of his throat. "Reg, we can't do this." His voice sounds wrecked, husky, and breathless. "We can," is all he says. And somehow, they're kissing again, his mouth hot and sweet. James has kissed other people, but never like this. Never so desperately. He pulls one of his hands off the wall, bringing it to the back of Regulus's neck, and that's when he feels it. Regulus, hey!" He pulls back slightly, trying to get a better look at Regulus's face. They're both breathing heavily, the top of Regulus's cheeks flushed in a way that James has never seen, and he doesn't think he will ever forget. "Regulus, you're shaking." He can see the other boy swallow. It happens? It happens? It'll stop eventually. And James has no idea what any of that means, but Regulus is clearly not interested in letting him figure it out because his hand starts moving again, grip tightening in a way that makes James choke. Fuck, you're so... He doesn't know how to finish that sentence, trying desperately to keep himself together. "Regulus, you can't just do this because you don't want to talk. You're the one who kissed me, remember?" His hand stills, thumb making maddening circles that sends shocks through James's whole body. He wants to scream. The other things. God, so many other things. "I have terrible impulse control," he exhales. "But I don't think you want this." He can feel it the way he always does, the tension under Regulus's skin. Like fear, but not quite. Regulus presses his thumb down one more time, making James whimper before he starts moving his hand again, faster now. James's eyes close, every fiber of his being begging him to lean into it to sink into Regulus's body. But instead, he puts his hands on Regulus's shoulders and pushes back. He can hear his own ragged breath in his ears, Regulus looking up at him surprised. "I'm not doing this way," James says eventually, sounding as though he's just run a marathon. Regulus' expression goes from surprised to annoyed in no time. "What way?" "We're fighting. Are we?" James groans, still struggling to think straight while looking at Regulus's mouth, red and wet and so fucking close. "We're something." "Oh, well, in that case," Regulus says sharply, pulling himself out from under James's hands and walking away. James feels his bones ache at that loss. "You know what I mean." "I assure you I don't." He gives James a once-over. "Put your dick away, Potter, if you expect me to take you seriously." James rolls his eyes, doing up his pants with fumbling hands. "We haven't fixed anything," he says, looking back up. "And you were shaking." Regulus scoffs. "People shake during sex. I'm not sure how limited—" "Don't be an ass, Reg," James cuts him off. "I know the difference." Regulus just stands there, the defiant look back on his face, hands and fists at his side. "I didn't say no. You didn't say yes." "Oh, fuck you and your honorable bullshit." Regulus throws his hands up, but he isn't able to hide himself. Not completely. Isn't able to keep his voice from cracking. "So what? What does it matter?" "It matters, Reg," James says. He wants to go to him, but he doesn't, holding himself back, watching as Regulus tries desperately to close himself off. He looks at James like he wants him to understand, and James wishes that he did. That whatever it is that Regulus is desperate not to have to explain, he didn't have to. "This is what we get," Regulus says finally. There's no other way, James. It's always going to be like this. And I want you and I can have you like this. You're mine here, not his, and I want you." James tries to pick that apart, only understanding half of it. "There's more?" he says finally. "You want me, but you don't. Because you didn't..." Red cuts him off with a sigh. It's complicated. I can't..." "You don't have to explain." Regulus laughs, passing a hand over his face. "I really should, but it's nice that you don't think so." "Reg," James says softly. "First night I was up here, do you remember what I said?" "I remember all of it." The words seem to come out of him without his permission, a surprisingly sweet confession, and James tries not to get distracted by it. "I told you that I didn't want to take anything from you." He looks right into Regulus's eyes. "I meant that, Reg. I mean that." Regulus shakes his head, turning away from James and walking over to the railing, looking out over the night. James wants to follow, desperately, but he doesn't. Most people don't notice, Regulus says eventually. Don't notice? He can't see Regulus's face, so for the next few moments of silence, he really has no idea what's happening. I always kind of shut down a bit. Defense mechanism, I think. He laughs, and the sound is heavy. Not that there's been that many people, mind you, but none of them seem to, or I guess they didn't care. There's no inflection in his voice. He says all this like it's nothing to him. Like he's describing the weather. James's chest feels tight. He wants to set the world on fire. Wants to take Regulus somewhere far away where nothing can touch him. He wants to fix this. He knows he can't. I'm not them, is what he manages to say. There's another long pause before Regulus sighs, dropping his head. I know. And then, but sometimes I wish you were. Easier that way. He lets his voice trail off, staring at his hands. I thought I could control it. I thought I could keep it here, just us, but I can't. James understands that. Oh, how he understands that. It's easier when it's just the two of them, without their friends and families, without politics. He watches Regulus's back and feels overwhelmed with all the things he feels for him. Eventually, Regulus turns around. He looks resigned. I'm not a very good person. James opens his mouth to interrupt, but Regulus talks over him. I'm not going to do the right thing here. The right thing? James manages to ask. Regulus looks at him sadly. I'm not going to let you go, James. Not until you make me. Not until you tell me you don't want me. I never should have let this start. I should have told you to fuck off and been done with it. But, well, he shrugs a little helplessly. I'm not a very good person. Somehow, those words hurt and feel good all at the same time, tangling up inside of James like the rest of it. I want you, he says breathlessly. I want you, Reg. The other boy's eyes close briefly before he steps forward, slow, careful, and James lets him bring them together again, lets him hold his face, thumb brushing his lips, lets him pull lightly at the back of his head, bringing their mouths together. It's not like it was before. It's careful, breakable. And James thinks this is what they mean when they say love is falling, because he doesn't know where the floor is, because he knows it's going to hurt when they hit the ground. Okay, chapter end notes. Hello, lovelies. This chapter was really hard to write for some reason, so hopefully it turned out okay. I really struggled to get that ending right. Honestly, I say it every time, but thank you for the comments on this story. It's been really nice, so thank you. Reader end notes. I hope that my timestamping was accurate and it didn't accidentally get any of the dialogue or any of that in that I was trying to avoid for you guys that skipped the spice scene. I really hope that this episode was okay, and really sorry about it being late, because I just totally forgot that time was a thing yesterday, and I'm employed, so I had to go to my job, and then I forgot that, I don't have time when it's like 12 at night to record this, so, anyways, thank you all so much. I'm going to redo that. Thank you all so very much for listening to this, and I hope this episode was good, and see you next episode. Bye!